You ever wonder what it really takes to build a nation, especially a nation like India? I mean, it's not just about drawing some borders on a map or, raising a flag. It's a story, and that story is told through its people. We're talking about visionaries, revolutionaries, and builders who dared to shape a future for over 1 billion people. So let's dive in and meet the people who laid the foundation for the India we know today. So, what's the secret ingredient? Is it a massive political struggle for freedom? An economic boom that lifts millions out of poverty? Maybe it's a scientific leap that literally reaches for the stars. Or is it the cultural soul, the very thing that defines its identity? Well, as we're going to see, the answer is, yeah, it's all of the above and a whole lot more.
To really get how India was built, we're going to break it down and explore 5 key chapters in its story. And we'll start at the very beginning, the fight for freedom itself.
Right. So first up, you need the dreamers, the rebels, the architects of freedom. These are the people who looked at the might of the British Empire and somehow dared to imagine a totally different future for their homeland. That first spark of rebellion, it was lit way back, with uprisings like the one in 1857, where you had incredible figures like the fierce Rani Lakshmi Bai taking a stand. And that little spark grew into a fire, fueled by decades of strategic resistance, until it finally just blazed into the dawn of independence in 1947.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. There wasn't just one single path to freedom, not at all. On one side, you've got Mahatma Gandhi, who pioneered this incredible strategy of Satyagraha, a powerful form of nonviolent resistance. But then, on the other side of the coin, you have Subhas Chandra Bose. He believed that freedom had to be won on the battlefield, and he even formed his own army, the INA. So you have 2 absolute giants, 2 completely different philosophies, but they were both aiming for the exact same goal.
And this movement wasn't just about political freedom. It was this whole kaleidoscope of different voices. You had fiery young revolutionaries like Bhagat Singh and these really influential early leaders like Lala Lajpat Rai. But, and this is so important, you also had social reformers. People like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who fought against horrible customs like sati and really pushed for education. They were laying the groundwork for a more just and modern society. Okay, so winning freedom was a monumental task. But what happens the day after? How do you take this vast country with millions of people and forge a single, unified nation? That brings us to our second pillar, the massive job of building the world's largest democracy.
Every new nation needs a rulebook, right? A kind of guiding star. For India, that was its constitution. And the person who held the pen, the one who poured his heart and soul into creating this framework for a modern, democratic, and truly equitable India, was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar.
And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale of this challenge, just imagine this for a second. At independence, India was this patchwork quilt of over 560 separate princely states. 560! How on earth do you bring them all together? Well, the man who answered that question was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man of India. Through a mix of incredible diplomacy and just sheer willpower, he stitched them all together into a single, unified country. And of course, steering this brand new nation were its first leaders. You had Jawaharlal Nehru, the first prime minister, who set the course for a modern, industrialized India. Dr. Rajendra Prasad served as the first president, a real steady hand during a time of massive change. And Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, the first education minister, he's the one who laid the groundwork for institutions like the IITs, which are now, global centers of excellence. But a modern nation isn't just about politics and borders. It's also about looking forward, about harnessing the power of science and technology. And that brings us to our third pillar, the incredible scientific revolution that really propelled India into the modern age. India's scientific ambitions were really driven by a handful of key visionaries. You had Homi J. Bhabha, who dreamed of a self-reliant India and basically architected its nuclear program. Then there was Vikram Sarabhai, who looked up at the stars and founded the Indian space program, a program that would one day launch satellites for the whole world. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam, the beloved missile man, made sure its defenses were secure, and Satish Dhawan came in and professionalized the space agency, ISRO, turning all those early dreams into tangible reality. Just think about that for a moment. The vision of one person, Vikram Sarabhai, directly led to the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, becoming this major global player in satellite launches today. It's just a powerful reminder of how one person's dream can totally shape the destiny of an entire nation. And India's scientific legacy, it's literally woven into the fabric of physics itself.
I mean, you've heard of the Higgs boson, right? Well, the term boson, which is a fundamental class of particles, is named after the Indian physicist Satyendra Nath Bose for his groundbreaking work with Albert Einstein, a contribution that has literally changed how we understand the entire universe. Okay, but a nation needs more than just amazing science. It needs an engine for growth, a way to create jobs and opportunities for all its people. And that leads us to our fourth pillar, the captains of industry who built India's economy.
This table tells such a cool story about how Indian industry has evolved over time. In the early days, you had these foundational builders like Jamshedji Tata, who laid the country's industrial might with his steel empire, and G.D. Birla, who championed the Swadesi movement. That's the call for economic self-reliance, using Indian-made goods. But then, in 1991, everything changed. India opened its economy to the world, and a whole new wave of entrepreneurs burst onto the scene. Disruptors like Dhirubhai Ambani, who built a petrochemical empire from nothing, and N.R. Narayana Murthy, who basically put India on the global IT map with Infosys.
But industrial growth in India wasn't just about big factories and steel mills. It was also about empowering rural communities. This chart shows the absolutely incredible impact of what's called the White Revolution. Led by a man named Verghese Kurien, the Amul cooperative movement, also known as Operation Flood, transformed India from a nation that was short on milk to the world's largest milk producer. It's an amazing testament to the power of grassroots innovation.
And, behind these giant globe-spanning enterprises, there are often these really human stories. Infosys, one of the biggest IT companies on the planet, was started with a seed investment of just 10,000 rupees. And that money came from N.R. Narayana Murthy's wife, Sudha Murthy, who was herself a pioneering engineer. It's just a great reminder that even the biggest dreams can have some pretty small beginnings. But a nation is so much more than its economy or its scientific achievements, right? A nation needs a soul. It needs a unique cultural identity that defines it. And that brings us to our fifth and final pillar, the people who shaped India's art, cinema, and sport, and then shared it with the entire world. In the world of cinema, no one casts a longer or more beautiful shadow than Satyajit Ray. His films, like the timeless masterpiece Pather Panchali, they weren't just stories. They were like windows into the soul of India. He stripped away all the melodrama of popular movies to focus on raw, human truths. And it was through that universal lens that the world really began to see and appreciate the richness of Indian cinema.
And check this out. This is a fantastic example of how art can literally change the way a nation sees itself. Before the painter Raja Ravi Varma, religious art was mostly stuck in temples, accessible only to a few people. But by blending European realism with Indian themes and, this is the crucial part, making affordable prints of his work, he brought the gods and goddesses into the homes of millions of ordinary people for the very first time. It was a revolution, both in art and in faith. The voices that defined India are just as diverse and vibrant as the country itself. You have the Nobel-winning poetry of Rabindranath Tagore, whose words actually gave India its national anthem. The magical sitar of Ravi Shankar, who became this bridge between East and West, captivating everyone from the crowds at Woodstock to audiences in the world's most famous concert halls. Then there's the timeless voice of Lata Mangeshkar, the soundtrack to countless lives. And of course, the unparalleled wizardry of hockey legend Dhyan Chand on the sports field. So, what does it take to build a nation? As we've seen, it's definitely not the work of one person, or even a handful of people. It's a collective effort, a symphony of different voices and different talents. It takes the courage of freedom fighters, the wisdom of politicians, the genius of scientists, the ambition of industrialists, and the vision of artists, all working together to create something new, something that lasts. So, this incredible legacy of nation building, this story of pioneers who dared to dream of a new India, it brings us to one final forward-looking question. As India stands at a new crossroads, facing new challenges and brand new opportunities, who will be the pioneers that write its next chapter? And what will that chapter even be about? That's something for all of us to think about.